Hi, my name is Khleif, and I'm the host of the Lifetime Cashflow through Real Estate Investing podcast. And every week I interview multifamily rock stars, and we talk about how they've built incredible wealth for themselves and their families through multifamily properties. So hit the like and subscribe buttons to get notified every Monday when a new episode comes out. Let's get to it. Welcome to another edition of Lifetime Cashflow through Real Estate Investing. I'm Khleif, and I'm thrilled that you're here. And I know you're going to get a lot of value from the gentleman I'm interviewing today. He actually had me on his podcast out not that long ago, but he's a player in the multifamily space. His name's Caleb Johnson, and he's been involved in about 450 units so far in multiple states. And we're really going to have a lot of fun today. Caleb, welcome to the show, brother.
Rod, happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So why don't you just tell us who you are, where you came from, do a much better job than I just did on your bio. Why real estate? Maybe when you started real estate, and just kind of bring us to current.
Mm-hmm. So the way I got into real estate was because of my parents, and not because they were wealthy. They were actually the opposite. And I've been blessed to be a part of a middle class family, but we just weren't wealthy. And my parents are W-2 workers. So my dad's worked at the same position for 30 years as a librarian. My mom's an occupational therapist for 15 plus years. And the way I got started into real estate was because of my mom, and she had her knees replaced. So she went under the needle, and she was out of work for 3 months. During that time, she was going to live off of her savings until she was able and ready to go back to work. But at the end of 3 months, Rod, she wasn't healed all the way, but she couldn't afford to live off of her savings any further. So she made the tough decision of going back to work when she wasn't ready and able. And Rod, she come home crying, because she was in so much pain from standing on her feet for 6+ hours a day and just having this major operation. So that moved me when I'd see her come home like that, and really motivated me to want something different for myself. So when I was 6 years old, I didn't have something like that happen to me. And I also wanted to aid her financially and help her retire early. So that was what got me started, and I did a house hack for my first deal and just scaled from there.
So, I saw some of your trajectory over the years. It looks like, really got rocking in 2021, 176 unit in Arizona, got some retail space. Be interesting to hear how that's doing. And then you went into New Mexico and Oklahoma City. So it's all fairly recent. Now, I assume you're raising money, you're syndicating, you're doing that value add play that a lot of operators do, like most of my students do. Yes, is that right?
Value add. But I'll bring the deal and the broker relations and asset management. So not a big capital raiser at the moment, but looking to grow that side. Okay. So you've partnered with other people on the GP team to put a nice team together, and that's how everybody. By the way, guys, that's how everybody does this business. I mean, you focus on your superpower. In your case, it's finding deals and the asset management, and you align with people for the other pieces. That's been really successful in my ecosystem with my warriors, my coaching students, and I think they're somewhere between 150 and 160,000 units now. We're doing a count. I'm just blown away. But a little over 5 years that I've been teaching. So I have to ask you the question, because this was a real driver for me. Your mom, that's really cool. Have you been able to retire her yet, or is that still in the horizon? That's the plan. That's the goal. That's the why. It has shifted I still want to help her financially. And I also have learned and developed the belief that she does have to help herself, and I can't always provide for her, but I do. That's still a big driving force in me to help her retire, so she doesn't have to worry that much.
Yeah. You're pretty young, aren't you? How old are you?
I am. I'm 25, but I tell people I have a baby face. I have a baby face. So I tell people I'm 13 and they believe me.
Yeah. 25. My God, I have socks that have 2 decades on you. Just so that's awesome. It's. I will tell you. I did a lot of things for my parents. I bought them a house here in Port Charlotte, Florida. Bought them a car. Took them on cruises, and there's nothing more rewarding than that. So I'm loving the fact that you've got that to look forward to, because it's pretty extraordinary. So talk about some epiphany moments on your journey. Okay. Because people think it's all easy and there's no issues, no setbacks, no problems. But actually, you know what? That's 2 separate questions. Let's start with epiphanies. Any moments, and then I'd like to hear about setbacks, but let's start with epiphanies. Any moments where you're like, okay, now I get it. Now I'm going to do this because I get it. Anything come to mind when I ask that question?
Yeah. So 2 things come to mind, Rod. And the first one is my first deal. It was a house hack. I moved into 1 unit of a 4-plex, rented out the other 3. That was in a C- area. So one of my neighbors was a drug dealer. The other was a hoarder, and, netted a good chunk of change, over 150 grand, praise God, in about a year and a half, because that was in the Arizona market. But really seeing that first check from the cash flow come in and think, this works. And the second epiphany was when I was in real estate for about 3 years, and I thought I would do residential for a good amount of time and then take that knowledge into commercial. And I went to a real estate meetup, an apartment real estate meetup, and I heard the speaker share 2 things that changed my life. And the first was that you're going to be green regardless of when you start in commercial, because it's just completely different from residential. The valuation process, scale of economy, and you just got to start whenever, as early as you can in commercial.
Right.
And the second thing was he shared his first deal, which after, he bought it 4.5 years later, sold it, and he alone netted $2.5 million. And I thought, okay, 1 deal, 4.5 years, I can't do that in residential real estate. And so if I want to generate wealth, I've got to take that step in commercial. And it was just all guns blazing from that point.
No kidding. Good for you. Good for you. So now let's go to the second question that I kind of started to ask, and not realizing there were 2 there. And that is, everybody thinks it's all roses and glory, and they just see the checks and they don't realize it's like a duck. It's floating across the top of the water, and you don't see under the water that the little paddling like crazy just to stay alive and so on. Talk about some of your, I call them seminars, but they don't necessarily have to be that bad. It might not be a failure, but definitely setbacks, hurdles. Talk about some of those learning experiences and maybe the lesson if it's applicable.
Yeah, I think the first one was, with a 4-plex, renovating my first unit, and it was a 2-bed, 1-bath, about 700 square feet. And I thought I would do the work myself and learn that way, kind of get my hands dirty. And I'll tell you what, I learned something that I'm not handy. There was probably more blood, sweat, and tears shit on that than there needed to be. And so rehabbing that took me 2 months and about $7 grand. The next unit that was right next door, it took someone else 2 weeks and $7 grand or $7,500, something like that. And I thought, you know what, I'm done. I learned what my skill is, and it's not rehab. So that was one. And then the other was when... Hold on, let me stop you right there, because there's a real lesson in that. So guys, in this multifamily business, you've heard me say it until ad nauseum that it's a team sport. And Caleb is a perfect example of that. We talked about what he brings to a team and what he looks for in a team. And if you are playing to your strengths, first of all, you enjoy it, okay, and you love it, and frankly, work is play. And if you really love it, you never work another day in your life. Secondarily, you're passionate about it, and this business requires you to influence people, and you're able to influence people. But the thing of it is, don't try to build your weaknesses. Focus on your strengths, capitalize on your strengths, and hire, align, or partner for your weaknesses. And success is just a foregone freaking conclusion. Would you agree with me on that one, Caleb? I sure would. I would.
Yeah. So talk about the second one. Sorry I interrupted. I just want to hammer that one home.
The second one was when I first got that commercial bug, and I thought I was going to raise capital because I had been building these relationships and networking with high net worth individuals for 3 years. And so I had the network, but when I tried to raise money, it just wasn't happening, Rod. And so
why do you think that is? Just derail you for a sec there.
Yeah, I think it could have been because of my age. And, you know, when I was raising capital, a lot of people just had circumstances come up where they were going through divorce or they were doing this and they just invested $100,000 in this offering already. So it was just a lot more challenging than I thought it would be.
I see.
And so after about 3 months of trying to beat my head on the wall and trying to do this, but it just wasn't working, I pivoted to underwriting. I thought, you know what? It starts with the deal. So if I can bring a deal to someone that has raised capital, then they can do that. And I can just bring the deal and focus on the broker relationships or the seller relationships. And I can get my feet in that way. And that's what happened. You know, I partnered with someone that had underwritten over 600 deals in about 18 months. And he taught me, and then I brought deals to him because he had the network to close them.
Fantastic. No, and that ties into what we were just talking about, you know, and would you consider that a strength of yours? Do you enjoy that pivot that you made, or you just out of curiosity?
You know, I enjoy it because it's shown me some success. And so calling people is not my favorite thing to do in the world, but you know, whenever you're starting your business, sometimes you have to do the task that no one else wants to do.
You wear multiple hats, and that's the thing. And should you have a working knowledge of all these pieces of the business? Absolutely. But I'm going to encourage you, those of you listening, to hone in on what you think you might really enjoy. And the hats are, of course, finding deals, raising money, underwriting deals, asset management after the fact. The two biggest, of course, are finding deals and raising money. By the way, I just did a masterclass, like 4 hours on raising money. I was really proud of it. Is what I taught at my Warrior event. You know, I have events just for my students, my Warriors. We had 300 here about 3 months ago, and I did this 4-hour raising capital thing. So if you're listening and you go to my Rod Khleif official Facebook page is where it is. You can watch it. So it's 2 sessions, 2 days. Now it did drop off. We had a hell of a time with Zoom. It dropped off. So there's 2 pieces to each one, but I'm proud of it. It's really quality content. If you're interested in learning how to raise capital, it's more than I can do at my boot camps. I've got a boot camp actually this weekend, and I can't go that deep there. Well, listen, I'd like to ask you, because you're young and you're going to inspire people your age to get into this business, what suggestions might you have for people that are like you, your age or younger, that haven't done this yet? They know, they don't want to do a W-2 their whole lives. They know they deserve more. They may want whatever they want back, like I did, the Lamborghinis and all the stupid crap like that back when I was that age, but they don't know how to do it. And they're thinking multifamily. Please speak to those people.
Yeah. 2 things really come to mind, Rod. And the first is you got to find a partner. I feel like we keep on talking about this over and over again, and because it's so pertinent, you know, you have to find people that can fill the gaps and wear the hats that you don't wear right now and that you can't wear. Let's say to that young professional just starting off, no money, no resources. You have to start and partner with people that have what you don't have.
Right. So let me stop you there for a second. So let's elaborate on that for a second. So you go to local meetup groups, you go to real estate investor club meetings. I was talking about my Warriors, my coaching students, that 150 to 160,000 units were all done between Warriors. So it's not just filling your gaps, but it's also someone looking over your shoulder, second guessing you, double checking you, making sure that you're not jumping into a deal you shouldn't jump into. And this business is a team sport. So, get around people that are doing this in your local environment, because it's so important. So anyway, please continue. Sorry. I just want to elaborate on some of these because they're really good points.
The second one would be to work hard, and I remember several times with the fourplex, 1:30 in the morning painting, to get it done because I'm working a W-2 job. And I also remember at 9:00 at night, I used to manage a barbecue restaurant. So I'm cleaning this huge freaking smoker at 9:00 at night, and I'm crying because I don't want to be there. I'm upset, but I'm still doing this real estate thing. And I'm asking myself, God, is this ever going to happen? Am I going to be doing this my whole life? But that was, let's say 4 years ago. And now I was able to leave my job last year. And so I've been able and blessed to focus on real estate full time, and I'm here, and so just, you got to work hard and be able and willing to sweat it out and just keep going. That's it. Massive, massive freaking action. Bottom line. And that's why one of the first things we do at my boot camps is goal setting on steroids, because you've got to create that burning desire. You got to want it. And in fact, I was just talking to a coach. I'm going to do a TED talk, and I was talking to a coach that's helping me align that. And we were talking about, pushing through fear and pushing through limiting beliefs and actually taking action. I may be positioning it more on recovering from setbacks than, actually initially taking action. But it's the same dynamic. You've got to really get clear on your why. Like you have that memory of your mom crying, and that's a freaking motivator. Okay. Things like that. You got to really dig deep and find that why that's going to get you to actually take action and make that move, make a decision, take that first step. So, yeah, that's awesome. Let me ask you this. What do you think some of the best advice you've ever received, Caleb? And it could be personal, it could be professional, either way. I'd say find your why, right? Yeah. And I know so many people, they can chase this dream for 5 years because they're unhappy with their job. They have no time. Now they have no money. And then 5 years down the road, they're successful in real estate and they have no time and they're upset. And so they get to the end of the pot, the gold pot at the end of the road, and they're still unhappy. So find what you really want to do. And that starts with finding someone that has the life that you want to have. If you want to have the life like Rod, then you have to find the blueprint and the steps that Rod has taken to get to where he is, and know what you're getting into, know your why. Do you want to give back to the community? And that's your why. Because whenever your why is bigger than yourself, life gets a lot better. Oh, that's a great point. That's such a great point. Life is about contribution. Life is about giving back. We had, I keep referencing the Warriors. That's actually not by design, but obviously they're top of mind for me. We had a big boot camp in Denver. It was Orlando. I'm sorry, Orlando. And there were about 1,000 people there, 900, 1,000 people there. And we did this Hall of Fame for my Warriors. And then we picked 10 Warriors that were just like kick-ass. And we did a slide for each one of them. And by the fourth slide, I'm starting to see a pattern. Every single one of them does something to give back. Sexual trafficking, build a school in India, Haiti, veteran suicide, veterans homelessness. It was one right after another. I'm like, holy crap. And I told the audience, I'm like, guys, you see a pattern here? Because what you give, you receive. And, believe in God, obviously, then that's tithing. You just give. And whatever you believe, that's the universe, God, whatever you give, you get back 100-fold. And so, that's great point, buddy. Great point. So let me ask you this. How did you get over your fear of your first deal? Or you're young and when you're young, you think you can conquer the world, and maybe there wasn't any fear, but if there was, I'd love to know how you got over it. Yeah. I think there's always fear. And I've also kind of realized that sometimes we feel like what we have is fear, but often it's just anticipation. Right. And so we have anticipation for getting that first 100-unit deal or raising that first $1 million. So sometimes it's just anticipation and not fear. But for me, there was a ton of fear where you just have to keep going and you have to trust the process. Right. It kind of goes back to what I talked about earlier with, if you find someone that has a life that you want, do what they've done. And so again, if you're going back to Rod's story and you're doing the blueprint that Rod has done and you see his life as it is and you want that, then just follow the blueprint and trust the process. So you might close that first deal in 2 months, but you're trusting the process now, calling the brokers, doing your underwriting, following your KPIs. And once you trust that process and go down that journey, then you'll break through that fear eventually.
Yeah, no question. Action mitigates fear. Your experience mitigates fear. Okay, that's good. That's good. As an aside, is there a book? Because I'm sure you have people come up to you and say, hey, I see what you're doing. I freaking love it. Do you send them anywhere to go do something? Do you have a book that you recommend, that you gift, or that you recommend more than another? I mean, obviously, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I mean, that's a given. But anything beyond that come into play. There's some good ones out there. I'm just curious if anything comes to mind.
Yeah, Rod, you have some great content, and everyone I hear that works with you, they love what you do. And additionally, I love a book written by David Lindahl, which is called Emerging Real Estate Markets. And especially in the market cycle where we are today, you gotta get educated. And so reading that book has really helped develop my knowledge in real estate. And
it's funny. Sorry, hold on. I just on David Lindahl. I was actually at a family office convention in Miami, and David was there. And I've known David. I actually went to his boot camp decades ago. He's one of the first people that actually started teaching multifamily. I think he's semi-retired now, but he was giving away that book when I was there. He had hundreds of copies. He was giving away that actual book, Emerging Markets. Anyway, sorry I interrupted, but it just triggered a memory. So David Caval.
Yeah. Well, the second book would be Atomic Habits. Habits. It talks more about not the goal, but building the habit that's going to get you the goal. And so again, that book has been really influential in my life.
Atomic Habits. Love it. So, do you have a morning routine? Do you have something you do every morning, or do you have any sort of a routine that you think has helped contribute to your success?
Yeah. Again, two things come to mind, Rod. And the first is working out. So I used to do bodybuilding competitively, and I only did one show. I tell people I got second place out of two people. So
that's funny.
Wasn't like this big thing, but I enjoyed that. And so working out is a big part of my life. I love that. And the second thing is, being in the Bible every day. That is something that has changed my life. Just again, kind of that giving mindset. And so those two things, coupled with eating properly and cold showers every once in a while in the morning, is good.
Good for you, man. Good for you. I just bought a cold plunge, and actually I literally, it's by my guest house. I got it 2 months ago, and I have not gotten in it yet. Now I have some excuses because I had some shoulder surgery and some other stuff, but it's been a week since the doctor said I can't get in it. So I haven't, and that's one of the things I was talking with my TEDx coach this morning, because we could use that as an example of knowing what you should do and not doing it, but you mentioned the cold shower that triggered that. But, what you talked about, really health. In fact, it's not even health, it's energy. So guys, to accomplish anything magnificent, if you've got a core job and you're going to do this side hustle, and you've got kids, you've got a wife, and you've got hobbies, you've got to have incredible energy. Can you do it? Yeah. But you've got to have energy, and that energy is going to come from eating right, exercising, cardio, all of those things that are super important. So I'm really glad you brought that up. Do you have any favorite quotes that you love that inspire you, or any people, any people in history, or quotes that inspire you, that helps you with the why, that gets you back up when you had your butt kicked? Anything come to mind?
Yeah, there's a couple, and one is, if I quit, it will last forever. And that was really motivational. And I actually have that tattooed on my back. So I kind of say that I'm branded. And of course, I just want to, that's my character, right? It's not because I'm branded that I act that way, but it's because of who I am. And
that's a good one, man. That is really good. That's why I call them seminars. If you quit, it's a failure. If you quit, it's absolutely a failure. But if you learn from it, you grow and you get back up, then that's when it's not. I love that one.
And I'm trying to think of what the other one was. It was something along the lines of, you can I'm going to butcher it, but you can blame other people all day, but it's really yourself. You can't blame other people. I'm going to butcher it. So
no, that's all right. No, I get the premise. I mean, you have to own 100% responsibility for your life. That's it. Bottom line, you can't blame the dog, the wife, the cat, the kids. It's you. And that's the good and the bad. You've got to own the good and the bad that's happened in your life. And when you can do that, it's freeing. Honestly, you're able to free yourself. And so, no, I think that's really helpful. Now, another question that I had, do you ever struggle with self-talk? Do you ever have things pop up that you're like, okay, well, I mean, I know you're definitely spiritual and religious, and maybe that helps with that, but does anything come to mind when I address the topic of self-talk?
The one thing that comes to mind is that I call people for work daily, calling sellers, brokers, whatever that is. And again, I feel that in anticipation before calling, and I just don't like calling people. But once you kind of get in the rhythm, you overcome that, and having a script is really beneficial and aiding in that. So that's probably the one thing that comes to mind. But once you have the script and you just do it, and it becomes a lot easier.
Yeah. What are you not great at as it relates to this business?
Man, that's a good question, Rod.
Or life in general. It doesn't have to just be this business. Is there something you're not great at?
Yeah, probably. This is a good one. So I have isolationism. So I can isolate myself very easily. And I'll give the example of I did this deal, and I think I didn't get the percentage of ownership that I wanted, and it kind of flew under the radar, and I didn't talk about it with my partner. And I thought, I'm just going to kind of do my own business. And I didn't really talk to him more about finding more deals. And over time, really learning that it's so easy for me to, once I have any reason to take someone out of my life, it's really easy. Like my mercy meter is very low. I have low mercy. So I can just cut someone out of my life. And so I didn't talk to this guy really on that side of business for a year or so, but realizing that I have those tendencies. And again, whenever you're young and you're starting out, you just have to be willing to sometimes give things away. Not all the time. You don't bet the farm and just give it all away, but you have to be willing just to sacrifice. And you always want to be around people, because when you isolate yourself, you miss out on so many opportunities that you can learn from others, and being in those circles, that it's just not worth it to isolate yourself.
Well, or you could have just addressed it and dealt with it too, right? I mean, you could have just dealt with it, and I get it completely. Yeah, my biggest thing is impatience. Oh my God, good Lord. I did a disc profile, and it said, listen, if you want Rod to hear something, you better do it in about 15 seconds. Otherwise you're going to lose him. But, no, I love it. So I know that you read the Bible, you believe in God. What would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates, Caleb?
Well done, good and faithful servant. That's the one thing that, if we could get there, I mean, that's what we're willing to hear, or we want to hear. And I've been on the other side where I've been a lukewarm believer, and reading Matthew 7:21 that says, only those that persist in doing the will of my heavenly Father will enter the kingdom of heaven. And many will get to the gates and will say, Lord, Lord, didn't we do all these amazing things, prophesy your name, cast out demons? And Jesus will say, I never knew you. Be gone from me. And that means you're going to hell, man. And that scared me to death. And so that's, if I could hear one thing, that would be it.
That's probably the deepest religious conversation I've had on this show. So I appreciate that. And it's good to have that, So what are you most proud of? We'll leave you. That's the last question I'm going to ask, unless you've got a question you'd like me to ask, but what are you most proud of, brother?
Rod, I'd say what I'm most proud of is the relationships. I think whenever, let's say you're going to a meetup or you're going to this big conference, it's not about the big conference. Yeah, you're going to learn a lot of things from it and it's going to be great, but it's more about the in-depth personal relationships you make through networking. And then those relationships will carry over hopefully 5, 10 decades, into the future. And so whatever you do, focus on the relationship bit, because man, that is so important when you have
it's the most important. It's the most important. I can tell you, I'm sorry to interrupt, man. You just got me excited for a minute there. My warriors, the ones that are the most successful, we've discovered this like 3.5 years ago, are the ones that are the most connected inside our community, that network like crazy. And so, and that's the secret to success. It's really not even the knowledge. It's the relationships. That's more important than the freaking knowledge. When I get a new student, I'm like, listen, I know you want to go through my material, but the number one focus is to connect with as many people in the group as you can. So we start facilitating those connections. We have the warrior only events, and we do speed dating and stuff like that to get people to meet each other. But that's so critical. And let me just add to that, because that's so insightful. You've really had some great stuff this time, Caleb. I got to tell you, and normally I don't expand on everybody's point, but your points have been really good. When you network, guys, don't be that person that's talking to someone, looking around the room and trying to collect as many cards as you can. Focus on deep personal relationships. Focus on connection, because I will tell you, if you make one kick-ass connection at a meetup, you're successful. Okay. So focus on, do you agree with me, Caleb?
I absolutely do. And one story that comes to mind is this gal I met at this meetup. She was known as the person that would just walk around and hand out business cards. She wouldn't even say hi. She'd just say, hey, here's my card. What's your card? And so now she's known as that girl. So don't be that person.
But she nobody connects with her. It's stop and talk and get to know somebody. And man, that's how this thing takes off. Was there anything you wish I would have asked you, bud?
Rod, you have some great questions, brother. So I don't think so. No, it was spot on, man. Thanks for having me.
Well, I appreciate you coming on, buddy. You're an inspiration, and let's circle back in a year and just see how much more amazing stuff you've done. Okay, my friend.
Love it, man. Would love it.
All right. Take care, buddy. So one other quick thing: we encounter so many people that are frankly frustrated. They're looking in the mirror and they're frustrated that they haven't been able to escape the rat race. They haven't been able to build cash flow to the point where they're able to have financial and time freedom with their families. And maybe they see other people buying real estate and creating, incredible cash flow, and they think, well, it's just scary. Buying apartments is intimidating. And I get it. See, that's why we created our Warrior Mentorship Program. They're our coaching students, and they've had extraordinary results. My students, I've been teaching about 5 years, and own upwards of 140,000 units now that we know of, right? And we feel like it's just getting going. Now we're looking to grow this group and really take it to the next level. And honestly believe that the greatest transfer of wealth could be upon us right now with this current economic environment. Everything's going on sale. So we're looking for people who want to follow a proven framework, really like a blueprint or a map, literally step by step. And then they're able to leverage our systems and our incredible network to raise money and equity, to find deals and close those deals and build partnerships, really nationwide. So if you're interested in finding out more about how you can become more in our incredible network and take advantage of the unbelievable opportunities that are upon us, you can apply to my Warrior Mentorship Program by texting the word CRUSH to 72345, or you can go to mentorwithrod.com. And what we'll do is we'll set up a call so you can check us out and we can check you out and see if it's a fit. Now, again, you can go to mentorwithrod.com or text the word CRUSH to 72345 to apply, and we will speak soon.